I kind of look at it from the market in the headspace of being out in California for the last few years. In this market, and incredibly competitive, incredibly difficult, it's like, wow, it's like, it's such a different mindset in terms of who the customer is, what they're looking for,
right,
and just their general philosophy about, I guess, how they view the market and what's going to succeed or not. And, I think now we're starting to see a lot of these MSOs pull out of states, markets entirely. And I think that's part of it's kind of being out of touch with, I hate to say but it's like being out of touch with the culture in general.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanted this since day one of legalization. I had an early distribution license in 2018.
Yep.
And I was going to these events, these mixers, and like they were really just trying to put license holders together to really just, the state would put them on, the growers, Humboldt had like this grower community that would put them on. So I'd go to these events and I'd be hearing all these growers building out these bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was a pissing match. It was like, oh, I got 10,000 square feet. I got 20,000 square feet. I'm building this out. I got this license and I got this. And it's just like, who can do bigger and bigger and more? And in my head, I'm wondering like, where is this all going to? And then I start figuring out like, okay, so demand catches up with that. But then as these new states roll out, and like you said, now you have thousands and thousands of lights and square feet. And I mean, doesn't Massachusetts have like hundreds of thousands of square foot canopies out there?
Yeah. So, you're allowed, an individual is allowed 3, and it's capped out at company, whatever. It's 3 retail licenses and 3 cultivation that are up to 100,000 square feet. So in Massachusetts, you're able to get 100,000 square feet of canopy under one roof with one license.
So you could have 300,000 per?
No, it's 100,000 total spread across 3 licenses. Okay. So, but again, look, I've seen some huge facilities out here that are, arguably the biggest that I know of in the world.
Right.
Indoor spaces or greenhouse spaces, it's massive, massive square footage. And I don't think people really fully understand the scope of some of this stuff, of how much product can be produced in some of this stuff. And again, as we start to scale, it becomes more and more difficult to really maintain quality. And, again, now this is more like commercial farming. We've got to predict out.
Yeah.
Because again, it's an agricultural product.
Yeah.
You're dependent on the weather. Every strain is going to be a little bit different. In different markets, people are going to want different strains. So you've got to kind of dance this very fine line of picking the right genetics, growing it well, and then finding the right places to sell it. And, right now we're limited to, our own state. And that makes it really hard. But, you start to look at the rest of the world, Canada is able to export into other countries. We're starting to see, it's going to be so fascinating to see how this market evolves and the way that different brands kind of are able to get out there, right? And, everybody wants California weed, not just in the United States. And, California's setting the trend to, flower in the world, whether it be Los Angeles or the Bay, it's
even
here.
Worldwide to the Europe, like they're looking our way for strains, for culture. I mean, other than Piatea, but that hash, I don't know if you've seen that, but, or Piatella, I might be mispronouncing it, but yeah, it's very cultural. It stems, we're ground zero. You know what I mean? And so my point being is, what I was asking about the square footage is, how is that going to accommodate? Because we know California's it's the 4th or 5th largest economy, just hands down in the world.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than some countries. And like you said, I don't think there's any 100,000 square foot grows in California, right?
I've been to, so look, I know some outdoor ones that are like,
outdoor, but not
ones.
Indoor.
For indoor, I've been one that I was told was about 1 million square feet of canopy.
Really?
Yeah. In greenhouse.
Oh, in greenhouse.
Yeah.
But in Massachusetts, there's indoor grows being 100,000.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. We don't even see that consistent scale out here in California.
I don't know of any indoor facilities that are that big.
Right. Maybe like 1,000.
I know mixed light spots, light assist.
The biggest indoor I know of is 1,600 square feet. or not, I mean, 1,600 lights.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that equates to in square feet, but I know it's not 100,000 square feet. And my point being is, if Massachusetts, I don't know where they pale in comparison on the scale of economy, but I know their population isn't as big as California.
No, I think, look, you've got a lot of college kids in Boston. You've got a lot of young professionals. So in general, you've got more people that consume cannabis there. But you're absolutely right. This isn't like a thing where, an industry where all of a sudden you can just turn on, a bunch of 100,000 light facilities and all of a sudden, like there's still not going to be enough flower. Like, I think we're at this tipping point now where I think there is enough cultivation to supply the entire country. So we're really at supply and demand.
Enough cultivation in California, or enough
enough cultivation in the United States to cover supply for the United States.
For the whole United States, and have a kind of decentralized supply chain in a sense.
So, but what does that look like? I don't know if it's going to be, are some of these smaller guys going to go away and there's going to be bigger facilities that get, built to take over, to eat up that demand? Or is it going to be kind of where there's this scenario where in Massachusetts in the Northeast, you've got regional brands that do really well, or, I don't know what it's going to look like. And again, that's why I always talk about having to kind of evolve with what's going on in the industry, because the market is constantly changing. And as we're going into other states, we're starting to see how different markets, what they're interested in different things.
Right.
And certain things are selling well in certain states and not so much in other states. And you really start to have to kind of take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and really start to look at what people are really interested in.
No, and you said it earlier about the strategy. It has to be based around genetics in order to get the sales. But the one piece I'd want to add on to your example was, you'd also have to plan ahead for genetics for the next year or for the next season, or however that may be. And it's a very tight rope to walk, because nobody knows what's gonna pop off next. And you could be in the industry for 50 years. It doesn't matter. You can have hints of it and you can kind of see through trends and you can kind of, steer it. But we all know what OG was like. I don't know were you involved with Deps?
Yeah.
So like for the longest time, since I was in the wholesale side in the early 2000s, it was always OG Deps or sour Deps. And if people were looking for flower, it was like, are they looking for OG or sours? And that was really the only options, other than like random off strains, but those wouldn't sell as good. And it was always more of a chore. So for instance, now that's basically gone. Now, I mean, there's some demand, but the whole market wants candy strains. They want runs, gelatos, these new candy breeds coming out. Like the different breeders are making different crosses. Lemon cherry gelato is basically what I consider what OG used to be.
It's bigger than what any of those were, the OG wave or whatever. I was out in LA in 2004, actually living out here. And that was the day of like $75 an eighth OG. I think the P's were like 6,400 or 7,200 or something. Yeah. Like it was fire weed, but it was so different than what everything else was around. And like, I kind of look back at, that was a wave, and it, look where it is, everybody still knows it today, but I don't even think the scale of it represents what's happening now with candy, because there's never been this many lights growing the same strain in terms of like the wave, so to speak.
Well, the other thing in defense of that, and the counter argument to that would be that OG also wasn't around when, and popular. I mean, it's still around. It wasn't as popular. It wasn't as popular during this time of legalization, where we have so much canopy out there and so much ability to grow so much. And the market demanded all this candy stuff in the past 2 to 3 years, when all this canopy came online. Well, not just came online, but it's evolved bigger, and everyone's steering towards gelatos, runs, candy strains, and it's hard to even find consistent OG. And so where I'm getting at is, I'm a proponent of a variety of terpene spectrums, and how candy is good, but OG and sours also have their place in the world of strain profiles.